Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Today we're here to talk about a real estate investing app called Landa. Now, if you don't know what Landa is, it is a real estate investing app where almost anyone can invest in real estate. You don't need a down payment. You don't need to worry about maintaining a property. You don't need to worry about finding tenants. You don't need to worry about any of the normal concerns that would normally be a problem if you want to invest in real estate. Landa handles all of that for you. So let's explore the app. Now, they do have security features. They have a PIN, they have Face ID, they have all of the modern security features, just like, any other investing app like Robinhood or a bank for that matter. Now, the way this works is you have a portfolio, and in that portfolio, you're going to get an expected monthly rent. So, for example, I haven't invested all of my money. I've only bought a couple shares. I still have a lot of cash. But for next month, I'm expected to receive 17 cents in rent. Now, on this page, you can see a couple different things. You can see available properties as well as this thing called baskets. Now, baskets are just a combination of properties. I'm not going to get too much into them, but it's just something interesting because they're there. So, let's explore a property. This is 4267 High Park Lane. You can see the price per share. You can see the rent return. And you can see that it is in the initial offering stage. Now, the way an initial offering stage works is the company buys these houses with a 60% LTV. Now, of the 40% of equity, they take that equity and divide it into 10,000 shares, which they then sell to investors such as you or me. We as investors can purchase these offerings, and once all 10,000 shares are purchased, the market will then decide the price. So once all 10,000 shares are sold for that price, the market will decide the price that the shares should be bought and sold for. Now, if we look here, the monthly rent for this property is $1,150. You can see all the estimated expenses. You can see that there's also a vacancy and reserves as well as the rent payout section. So those are going to be the two interesting things that you might want to consider. Now, you can also see the management fee, which is how this all works. Landa takes a very small percentage of the monthly rent in order to do all those things I talked about, such as finding tenants and maintaining the property. That way, you don't have to worry about them. So you can see with this property, there's a rent payout that is $374 every month. Now, something to consider with all real estate is the fact that if the tenant isn't there, you're not going to get paid. So it's just something to consider when investing in real estate in general. It also applies to this app. Now, you can see as you scroll down, you can see all kinds of information. You can see the interest rate, the loan term, all kinds of information. You can see the bank account, which is going to be the cash reserves for the property. So in the event that there isn't a tenant there or there's unexpected maintenance, that will cover it. And again, that comes out of the vacancy and reserves here. Now, you can also see the lease term and the rent per share. Now, for this property, the tenant has lived there for 20 months and has 4 months left on their lease. Now, so you can make the assumption that's probably a reliable tenant. Maybe that would be an interesting investment for you. So that's this property. Now, the rent return is something that I'm going to make a different video about because it's not calculated in the way you might think. And don't assume that if you buy a property, you're going to get that exact return. There's a lot of other factors that go into it, and I don't believe that figure is actually accurate. However, it's close. Now, the way it works is you get paid on the first of every month. When you make an account, you're going to be required to answer some questions. You have to be an American. You also have to be an accredited investor. Now, what that means is you have to meet some pretty strict federal regulations. Now, they don't check, and there's really no major risk to you. It's just important to understand that the reason why this particular investment is for accredited investors is because it's sort of risky and it's not really regulated. The SEC does approve the shares and make sure that everything is fair, but at the same time, Landa is ultimately in control, and there is a lot of risk involved in something like this. Now, let's switch over to the middle tab, which is your portfolio. It has your expected payouts. It has your equity and your cash. It has all kinds of interesting things. It has your transactions history as well as your orders. Now, as you can see, that $5 there is a referral gift. So just like Robinhood or a lot of other investing apps, if you invite a friend, you can both get $5. So if you scroll down to the description or the comments, I'll be sure to leave some codes so that you can get a free $5 if you decide to install this app. One thing to be aware of prior to installing is that they will ask you for your social security number. That is just to make sure you're an American citizen, and as well for taxes, because they will issue a 1099 div form at the end of the year. So be aware of that. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about. This is the live help line, I guess you could say. So you can message them if you have any sort of issues. I've done it multiple times, asked certain questions. They're extremely helpful, and I've had a really good experience. It never takes more than 24 hours. They've gotten back to me in as soon as 30 minutes. They're really, really good about that. Now, if you have just general questions that you think are probably pretty common, there is a helper that you can ask all sorts of questions. So if we scroll through these, you can see many of the frequently asked questions. And so if you have a particular question, like what if there is no tenant, you can select that, and this bot will tell you about what that means for you and your investment. Okay, last but not least, I wanted to talk about the different rent return numbers that you're going to see on here. They're not consistent, which means when the price per share changes, the rent return is also going to change. For example, this property is no longer in the offering stage, but you can see it offers a 23.1 cent return, which is much, much higher than the other properties. And you might think, wow, well, this is obviously a better investment. I should be investing in this. And just be aware that there's a reason why the return percentage is higher. And that is probably because of the fact that this is a duplex and one of the tenants is on a month-to-month basis and has lived there for 1 month. So people are worried that they might not get their full rent if this tenant decides to leave because they don't have much of a history at this property. So just something to be aware of when you're evaluating which properties you want to invest in. In terms of my experience, it's been very positive. As I said, their customer support is phenomenal. If you've ever tried to deal with Robinhood or some of the other online brokers, they're not great. Robinhood in particular is very bad, but Landa seems to be very on top of it, and they're very, very, very new. So keep that in mind. I like supporting these kind of innovative apps, and I think it's a really great idea for all kinds of people who really want to invest in real estate but can't afford a down payment or don't have the time to maintain a property. Just be aware that there are risks involved, and it is investing, so do your due diligence. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope I've taught you a little bit about Landa, and you can make a decision about whether or not you'd want to invest. As I said, I'll be making some other videos, probably with Excel, and evaluating each property and figuring out which ones are the best deals. If you have any questions or anything else, let me know. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.